I just want to give you a quick update on the Interactive Fiction Framework, BIFF, Bitwise Interactive Fiction Framework for writing adventure games in C#, which you can download freely from the Bitwise Books website. Now, in this version, I'm going to work on matching adjectives so that somebody enters, take the big smelly sack, and the adjectives would be big and smelly, and if there's a sack here, then the game will try to match those adjectives. So if there might be a small and not very smelly sack, well, that wouldn't match. Only the big smelly sack is going to match. Let me quickly show you what I mean. So if I compile and run this new version, so here's my game. It's popped up and it's prompting me. There's, look. So there's a sack here. So look at small sack. There is no small sack here. Well, let's have a look. Look at big sack. There is no big sack here. So what's the qualities of this sack that that I try to match? So it's a smelly old sack. So I need smelly and old. Look at smelly old sack. Hurrah! So it recognises that it's not a big sack, it's not a small sack, it's a smelly old sack. So I can add one or more adjectives to the commands to determine which thing I want to look at. That'll become useful later on if, for example, you have 3 swords. One is a gold sword, one is a silver sword, and one is a magic elven sword. You want to be able to distinguish which is which. In previous versions and in a previous video, I explained how to parse out adjectives from input. Now in this update, I want to show you how I've matched those with the adjectives that describe the actual thing themselves. Be sure to read the readme file, that's readme.txt, in the solution items up here. This lists what the major changes are. Thing.cs is the first one. Let's have a look at that. Well, the most important thing, obviously, is it's got adjectives. It's a list typed to hold strings. And down below, down here, you'll see that I've got this public method called matchThings. So when a noun phrase is parsed out, and a noun phrase can contain the noun, such as sack, and 0 or more adjectives, so it could have a sack that's a smelly old sack with 2 adjectives. Well, this then calls this private method, adjectives match, to try to see if the adjectives that are parsed from the user input are also found in the adjectives of the thing object that the user is trying to describe. Next, in adventure.cs, new ob here. Well, this is a sort of a test method. I've added this to let me find it. New ob here, you can see it's listed here. So if I go to definition. Right, so I previously had this method called ob here, and that just tested the noun, the name of the object. But the new ob here also tries to test the adjectives by calling the matchThing method, which I've just explained. And that is used currently in this version of the code. It's only used by the lookat_ob method. There are a number of methods to implement specific commands: take, drop, put something in something, and so on. In this version, I've only used this new version of the ob here method in lookat_ob. So if you try to use adjectives with other commands, they're going to be ignored. But by all means, take my code and extend it. Once you can see how I've done this in this method, extend it so that the adjectives can also be used in the other commands, take, drop, and so on. Back to the readme file. And you can see I've got lookat_ob method mentioned there. Now, gamedata.cs, that's where the game is initialized, where the treasures are created and put into rooms. Because I've now got an adjectives property, I can, when I create things, I create the map and I add rooms and I add things to the room. So I've got a leaflet thing here, a sign thing, and a container thing, which is a special type of treasure. and that's the sack. Now you can see that the leaflet has an adjective that's applied to its adjectives property. I've done that at the time of creation, when I've called the constructor, and similarly the sack has smelly and old adjectives, and those are added again at the time of construction. This code is all available for download, freely available for download. It's an extension of the code I developed for my book, the Little Book of Adventure Game Programming in C#. Go and get the code. You don't need the book. I'd like you to get the book. The book would explain all that went before this extension, but you don't actually need the book to get the code. I'll be carrying on developing this in future, so I'll be adding on more features. I'll just show you one more thing which you might find useful when you are trying to run this. So if you switch from release to debug configuration and then you run it again, this time I've put in a bit of debugging output, so enter a command, look at smelly old sack. And because I've compiled it in debug mode, now I get some debugging output, so it tells me that the command has been parsed into the word look, and which is a verb, and then at, which is a preposition, sack, which is part of a noun phrase. A noun phrase can also include adjectives, and the other part of the noun phrase, smelly and old. And so that gives you a little bit of insight into how this is all working. More updates from me soon. In the meantime, why not go and get your source code and get programming an adventure game. To learn programming in depth, enroll in one of my courses or read one of my books. More information at bitwisebooks.com.